My name's Nikki. I'm the Obsessive Bookseller, and welcome to my new channel. Today I'm going to be listing my top 5 favorite dragon series. Anybody who knows me knows I'm dragon obsessed, and so I've made a point to read as many series as I can with dragons in them. And a lot of books could have made the list because they have really good dragons in them, but they are not the main focus of the series or the story, so I did not include those. All of the books on my list today are completely dragon-centric. Let's get started with the first one. Okay, number 5 on the list is The Obsidian Chronicles by Lawrence Watt Evans. It's a trilogy, and the first one is Dragon Weather. Just showing some cover love here because I love the covers on these. I'm not gonna lie, it's been over 15 years since I've read these, but I remember a few key things about them. I remember that the dragons were excellent, and there was a couple of cool things like twists in the story about the dragons that I'm not going to tell you about, but it made it more interesting than anything I had read to date. The other thing, I love this author. I don't hear anybody talking about him very often, but he has one of the most relaxed, fun writing styles I've ever read. Like one of those authors where you pick up the book and before you know it, you're like 50 pages in and it hasn't been very long. His writing just kind of flows off the page. Probably not the most sophisticated series on my list, but still one that I recommend highly, and I am due for a reread so that I can give you more specifics than that. Number 4 on my list is The Rainwild Chronicles by Robin Hobb. And the first one's called Dragon Keeper. And what I love about this series, there are quite a few things. First thing, Robin Hobb is my number 1 favorite writer. Top of the list, which is saying something because it's really hard to pick favorites when you've read so many. But I love her writing style. I love her characters. They're all flawed. They feel human. It's so much more relatable to read about them, and she has this slower pacing, this like slow burn in her stories that really draws you in, and I cannot tell you how many books I've actually cried at, but I know at least 3 of them were in her Elderling saga. And I don't cry at books very often, but they just have a way of like ripping your soul out. The Elderling saga starts with the Farseer trilogy, and then you bounce to the Live Ship trilogy, then you bounce back for the Fools trilogy, the Tawny Man trilogy, and then it goes into these 4 books at Rainwilds, and it basically takes place after Live Ship chronologically as far as like same characters and whatnot, just a continuation. And honestly, that's probably why I love them so much, is because it's kind of like a culmination of events in the series up to that point. I would not recommend reading them as standalones. This is the first time in the whole saga where dragons take the front seat, and I thought it was fantastic. I've heard a lot of complaints about it being kind of slow, kind of angsty, but I didn't have any of those problems with it. My favorite thing about it is the dragons are more sentient. They can communicate with humans, but they still have this air of superiority. And their mannerisms, I thought, were really well detailed because they don't think or behave like humans, if that makes sense. There's a lot of series I've read where the dragons are basically just really big humans in the sense that the way they communicate and the way they think. So I loved the perspective with these, and it really was dragon immersion, like how to take care of your dragon every day, that kind of thing. And not to mention the setting is really neat. The Rainwilds is this really exotic place, and a lot of the story is kind of trekking through the Rainwilds and making discoveries along the way. So yes, very epic, but the caveat is you should probably read everything in the Elderlings realm before you hit these. Number 3, the Dragon Jousters series by Mercedes Lackey. This author surprises me at every turn. I don't think I've picked up a single thing by her I haven't liked yet. And this series was so much fun. It has that light-hearted character focus that's pretty prevalent in young adult novels, but it's sophisticated enough for adult readers too. The basic premise is this young boy, as a slave, he has to take care of dragons, and he forms a bond with one of them. I'll admit, this is also one that it's been several years since I've read. I think I read it when I was in high school, but I loved it enough to hunt down the hardcovers, and highly recommendable. I'm due for a reread on these as well. Number 4 on my list is The Memoirs of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan, and the first book is called The Natural History of Dragons. And I have a love-hate relationship with the first book in this series. The first half was a solid 5-star, one of the best I've ever read. I love the concept of this woman loving dragons so much that she does everything she can to go study them. And then the second half of the book, she makes so many weird harebrained decisions that I had a hard time getting behind it. I felt like it really ruined all of the amazing things that the author had set up to that point. That being said, because I knew she could wow me, I decided to continue on with the series, and I'm so glad I did. Each book gets better and better. One of my favorite things about it is the actual science and study of the dragons. I feel like if I had any fantasy job ever, it would be to study dragons in the wild. And so I'm kind of living vicariously through this character. Now, she does have a few ridiculous impulses through the whole series, so that's kind of a through line. So in some ways I appreciate the consistency, but in other ways, you know, kind of takes away the seriousness a little bit. But the discoveries that she makes are so much fun to read about. The dragons are completely wild. It kind of makes you feel like dragons could have actually existed in our world the way it's written. It's kind of like an alternate history type of feel. And finally, Waking Fire by Anthony Ryan. Not only is this my favorite dragon series, it's in my top 3 favorite series of all time. And as you can see, I've read a few of them. There are so many things I love about this series. It's a flintlock fantasy with a few steampunk elements, and then a lot of the adventures and discoveries have a very Indiana Jones vibe. Some of the most amazing world building I've ever come across. And then the dragons themselves, they're bestial, without an agenda. We're just hunting them and taking over their territory. But the magic system in here reminds me a lot of Sanderson's Mistborn series. There's different types of dragons, and every dragon's blood offers a different property to the select few who can use them. So, you know, it's kind of like Allomancy, but with dragon blood. There is not a single thing about this series that I did not like. And so, yep, that is why it's my number 1 recommend. And there you have it, my top 5 favorite dragon series. Catch you next time.